over time, I've scaled down to just focus on residential and commercial painting.
Okay.
And really simplify the business as of right now. And I intentionally did that for a variety of reasons, but I like to network with other trades and give referrals of my clients for the things that I don't do anymore.
Welcome, episode 27. So yellow colored glasses today, guys. So today we have a good friend of mine, another business owner here in the area, David Creighton. He is our guest today, but before we get started, we're going to read a review. Okay. So Monica B, great experience with Warren & Mounts Agency. They got us quotes super quick. The rates were lower than I currently pay and better coverage. And I've been with my current company for 20 years. I was so surprised that Warren & Mounts Agency were able to give me even lower rates than the company I've been with for that long. Excellent customer service as well. Answered all my questions and explained the differences between the quotes they gave me and the coverages I had been paying for. Highly recommend Warren & Mounts Agency. Thank you, Monica. As we all know, reviews are that's a huge thing with what we do on a day-to-day basis. So we definitely appreciate that, guys. So back to episode 27. So drum roll. Let's get some, there it is. We got some music and everything. Already started. Okay, so today, guys, we have David Creighton on. So me and David have known each other for, 7 years probably now? 6 years?
7, 8, somewhere.
I was going to say, I feel like it's coming up on 7, 8 years. I don't even know if we've known each other through anything mutual. I think you were looking for some insurance when we were at State Farm, and that's kind of how it happened.
Yep.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, because you were always at the front desk, and I'd come in there and shoot the breeze and whatnot, and introduce the business to you. And
that's what I thought. Yeah. I didn't think it was anything mutual, and we'll go into this in a second, but I don't. Because are you from Pleasant Hill?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. So we've known each other from back in the State Farm days. Worked with each other. He's done some work on our house, and we've referred a ton of people out to David. So David, he's had. I'll let him explain a little bit. But yeah, let's just go ahead and start with yourself and what you do, your business, and let's just start there. So tell us a little bit about your business.
A little bit about the business. I started it in 2016, and I worked a lot in the business up to a point where I could pull myself out of the field. But prior to that, I actually started in the painting and remodeling industry when I was 18.
Okay.
Working on houses in Brookside and so forth. And then I worked my way through the industry basically over the course of 16 years, primarily painting out in the field and then some remodeling. And then I got into the roofing industry. I spent some time in the distribution side of the roofing industry as well. So I learned a lot of different things, over the course of time. I put myself through college for a couple of years for a business administration degree and whatnot. And then, like I said, started the business from scratch in 2016, and then I've just been working my way out of it.
So 2016, so that would have been, so when we met, you were doing roofing, right?
Painting and roofing.
Painting and roofing? Okay. Okay. Now, were you doing that for another company at that time, or were you on your own doing your own thing at that time?
At that time, I was in the field working on the jobs myself.
Okay. But it was your company, right? It was okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So, what is the name of your company? Let's tell everybody what you're doing. Like, what exactly you kind of specialize in now. I know you've started here, and we'll go into that story a little bit. But what are you doing like today? What is your business about today? I guess everything that you offer service-wise. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, as of today, the name is DC's Contracting.
Okay.
And over time, I've scaled down to just focus on residential and commercial painting.
Okay.
And really simplify the business as of right now. And I intentionally did that for a variety of reasons. But I like to network with other trades and give referrals of my clients for the things that I don't do anymore. Part of that is so I can focus on the real estate investment side of another business that I'm working on.
That you like doing.
Part-time.
You like doing that a lot too.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a little bit of a passion for that, and I'm trying to get that going. So simplifying my main business to focus, the manageability of that to where I can enable a part-time to focus on something else.
On something else you like,
going.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I know we've talked about a bunch of real estate stuff before, because you've done some flips too. How many? Haven't you done a couple of flips as well?
One and then one rental.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, and I remember we were doing the Warrensburg flip, but I think that was like we had just started, and you guys were kind of getting to be done with all of yours. And man, like I remember, I don't know, we've always talked about how like everything goes really well with some of those flips, and then something happens, like goodness. So, but I know you like that a lot. So that's awesome. So what's that look like? I mean, are you getting closer? So it sounds like you had the business, right? And you guys were doing, because you guys were doing a little bit of everything originally, right? Like different types of contracting, and now you've kind of just specialized in more of the painting, right?
Right. Yeah. So originally, when I started the business, I was leveraging everything that I know how to do.
Okay.
And so I had more of a general contractor focus per
Okay.
se. That's why DC's contracting instead of something painting.
Painting. Yeah.
Yeah. And then over time, there's just so many activities going on. I had to scale things down.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay, we're going to do painting and roofing. So therefore, why I was just painting and roofing.
Uh-huh.
And I had some other things change with personnel and things like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm really going to dial back down to painting. I've always had a passion for painting. I painted a lot in the field myself.
Yeah.
And that's what I know the most in and out. So
Yeah, for sure.
Like, well,
just like insurance, like on us,
Yeah.
like we know insurance, so let's go with your niche, right?
Exactly.
Like let's go with your niche and get really good at that. We've talked about that a lot too. So
right.
now, is it on the painting? So is it do you doing a lot of new construction paintings? Are you doing remodels? Are you doing? I mean, what's that look like? Like, what's your ideal client, or is there an ideal client at all? Is it just kind of everything and anything?
Right now, no new constructions.
Okay.
I've done a couple over the course of my career for people that I know, but it's mostly residential retail, and I'm trying to get more of a footprint on the commercial side.
Okay.
Yeah. And then new construction, I've made some contacts and whatnot. It's just not really a thing.
For sure.
It's been mostly residential retail.
Okay.
That's what I know the most of.
Okay, cool. How do you kind of get in with a bunch of commercial? I've always wanted to know, like, what does that look like? Because like on our end, we've kind of gotten away from, of course we started at State Farm and now we're over here, but a lot of it was just residential. We're doing normal auto home stuff, and now we've transitioned into the broker route where now we can get into some commercial insurance and stuff like that. And I always kind of wondered how that would look like on our end, right? On how to get into the commercial field. So how does that look like in your field? You know what I mean? I mean, because the people you're normally working with, they're referring you out to other homeowners. Like, is it like, how do you get your foot in the door with the commercial?
That has to deal with relationships.
Yeah.
Depending on who you know or meet with and have conversations with, and other professionals in different facets, like commercial lending, for example.
That's true.
You get a relationship with a commercial lender, they're lending on people buying commercial properties.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. And then like like commercial real estate agents. Is that like a big one too?
And such as.
Yeah.
If you got people that are in that arena already and you build relationships with them, then it opens up those doors.
Okay. So on that side too, what about how many guys you got working for you right now?
Three. I have 3 guys that work mainly, and then I have one guy that's older that's really experienced. He's my most experienced guy, and I have him on all the specialty things.
Okay.
That I know that he can be trusted with. He can deal with homeowners in any type of situation.
He's kind of your main guy, it sounds like.
He's the most versatile and most experienced, and I know I can stick him in on different things. Like if I can go out and do it myself,
he could.
And he's way more advanced than I
good.
am.
That's good.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're basically saying he can do a better job than you.
Absolutely.
Good.
And that's what I want. That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So that's good. So now, as like area-wise, like I'm assuming you're probably all of Kansas City. Is there anywhere you?
Actually, no.
No. Okay. What's that look
Cass
like?
County, Eastern Jackson County, and then I'll venture off into certain areas depending on who it's for. But I don't hit a radius around Kansas City.
Okay. Is there a reason why on that? Just
it's targeted areas for logistics, and then
Okay.
also ideal client profiles are going to be in certain areas that I want to be in versus not. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, what about before you did the business? Like before you went on your own, what'd that look like? Like how did you kind of make that step? I mean, I know it's kind of a scary thing. Like, Like, let's talk on that, dude. Like,
yeah. So interestingly enough, when I got into the industry and found out, hey, I like painting and remodeling in my early 20s. So I'd been in it a couple of years, and I had this idea. It's like, it'd be cool to own my own painting and remodeling business. But back then, for about 10 years of my life, I was living reckless. I mean, just
what's that look like? Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
No, I mean, but that's a big, because like, I mean, 2016, I mean, that's what, 7 years? You've been self-employed, doing your own thing for 7 years. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of stuff beforehand. You know what I mean? That's a scary thing to kind of jump out. Because, what were you doing? I feel like when I first met you, you were doing something with just roofing. And I thought it was with another company. I think that's why. Am I wrong here?
No, I'll get into that.
Okay, let's talk. Yeah,
yeah.
Go on.
So when I had that idea, I had started, doing little odd jobs. As I was working for somebody, I would do side work and learn and grow in that regard. But yeah, over the course of 10 years, I was living really reckless and on the dark side in a lot of facets, right? So once I come out of that, straightened my life up and got on a new path, and got clarity and things like that, I realized, hey, I want to do something with myself later on down the road. So I worked for a couple of people on the roofing industry. I worked for somebody for a while, and I learned a lot of different things within that company. And then I went into the roofing distribution side of the industry, and that's probably when we met. I was there.
And what does that mean, though? Like distribution, like, were you elaborate that? Like, and I don't really understand that.
Right.
I don't think.
So that was a lot of like warehouse management, and then I would work inside sales, and I would run dispatch and do fleet and safety management, and just different things like that. But looking back, I realized that all the things I was going through was prepping me to get to where I'm at now, because I had to learn different facets of business, right? And I was at a point where, over the course of time, even though I would work for other contractors, I was always doing side work. And just working myself to the bone. But then I was working still for the distribution company, and then I had this idea. Like, I went on one of our trout fishing trips. We go on a couple times a year. Right? And it was the April and October trips. And I went on an April one in 2016, and I was walking down the river, first thing in the morning to go fishing, and then I heard this voice speak to me and say, "You need to start your business." I'm like, all right, whatever. So about a month later, I come back, and I just was like, I did the preliminary stuff, on through the state, all that basic stuff got out the way. And then I didn't really do anything with it for a while because we were so busy working that it just consumed 60 to 80 hours of my time every week. And then some time went on, and then I had this just real strong urge come over me at the beginning of a year, about a year later or so. So even though I started it in 2016, I didn't really start getting into it until about a year and a half later.
Really?
Yeah. So, and it came, like I said, that real strong urge came over me. It was like, you need to work on your business. It was just overpowering. So I put everything else to the side, and I started focusing on,
on yourself and your own business. Yeah.
So I would be at work, and I would, drum up leads or do whatever I had to do. And then I was just like, screw this place, I'm done. Yeah. And then I focused all on that and started gaining traction and lining up jobs and going out and working. And I gradually got to a point where I was separated from there on good terms. And then I just hit the ground running 100% all in.
And dude, I feel like, we bring people on, and, again, it doesn't have to be just a business owner, but anything, anybody that we bring on, it's like, that's kind of what we try to talk about is, there's always something that clicks, like something happens, and it's like, no matter if it was somebody to get in shape or, to open up their business or whatever, may be, like, there's always, and I feel like I've had that as well at some point where it's like, it's just like, you can't even explain it. You're all of a sudden doing your normal stuff, and then something just happens, and it's like, what am I doing? Yeah. Let's just do this. Like, let's go full on with this. Let's get committed to this, and let's just do it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I just feel like there's always, anytime I've talked to somebody, it's always something like that. Like, bam, something clicked, and let's go.
Yeah, and it was timing too, and it was a point in time early enough in the year where I had the seasonality in my favor, where I could just get in.
The busy time of the year for your type of work. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So I was able to ride out the remainder of the year on a good wave, so to speak, and then start going into winter and prepping for.
It'll kind of carry you through.
What am I going to do going into this full fresh year on my own? Yeah. And another flip side to that is, I had lost a lot of time when I was, pre on my own, 60, 80 hours a week, literally I was working and I was gone all the time. And
just probably to survive.
For a few years. Well, there's just a lot of work there.
Well,
I put in work.
Yeah. I'm saying like sometimes, and I feel like I've seen this personally, where when a good person, a good employee, somebody who wants to just be good, doesn't matter if you're working on your own or working for an employer, right? Like that's just like you want to do good at your job. So you take it serious and you put all the time in. Like it probably was hard for you to not put your full effort into that, to your job because you didn't want anything to slack off. But at the same time, you're like, shit, man, I know I'm doing a good job here. Why not take the step out and do it on your own?
Yeah, well,
right?
At that point, yeah. But yeah, I take ownership of whatever I'm doing and responsibility and go
that's
all
my
in.
point, yeah.
Up to a point where I realize, hey, look, there's a transition here that's lingering somewhere and I can't put my finger on it, but I know I need to, die off to one thing and then come alive to something else.
Yeah.
But the thing I was going to mention is a lot of that time that I spent, those 4 years before I went out on my own, I lost a lot of time, with family and different things that I wanted to do in life. So now, even though I still work hard and have, a lot of time available for the business, on the flip side of that, I manage my time and schedule in a way that I can still be available for my family, my kids, go out and do other things in life. Because I can work my schedule around everything else. Correct. And balance it out.
Yep.
Even though I may work 60 hours a week per se, I'm still doing life too, and it's not underneath somebody else's thumb where they have me at one place and then I have, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to show up at a certain time. Like it's not necessarily, it is like that's the goal, I think, is the time freedom, but you still have to be places. You're still obligated to do X, Y, and Z for, your clients, your employees, things like that. But it gives you more flexibility, right? And options. That's how it is for us. Like, again, like we're working, like I know I work a ton, but I don't feel like I'm working a ton.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I'm getting stuff done. And if you look at all the stuff that I'm getting done, well, yeah, that takes a while. It does. It's a lot. But I also get to kind of form my day how I need to form it.
Right.
Right? Is that kind of...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's cool. There's pros and cons of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's the pro, but then there's also the other part where it's like, gosh dang. Like,
the con to it is when bow hunting season opens up, and I'm a little less, kind of work is not as important.
It's a little cloudy. It's like, man, do I need to be sitting in the woods for 5 days straight? That sounds like a lot of fun, And yeah, man, we could talk about that because so Dave, you like to hunt too, and that's how me and we've always connected on that because like we're both big bow hunters and we're both always like talking about how we're trying to get our shit done before November, and that way we can spend time out in the woods.
Absolutely.
So that's fun.
No better place to be, with the exception of a few.
Yeah, and you got to have that too. You got to have that reset and go out and and clear the brain, clear the mind, and say, okay, like. I know you've talked about that a lot. Like that's kind of your peace time, your peacemaker. So
there's a lot of mindfulness that comes out of that, And it's not all about. Really good hunter, but poor killer, sometimes.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
If it was all about killing animals, it'd be called killing versus hunting.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. But there's a lot of benefits to that, especially in business too, because even sitting out there in that environment and it's outside of the norm, and it's just something spiritual about it.
Yep.
And then the reflection and all the things that come to you about life and different things, and then you can go back into your normal environment and have that clarity where it's like, hey, I kind of know what I need to do here, where I was hitting a wall or whatever that.
It's almost like you take a step out of the business, even though the goal is to not work in it. You're working on it, but sometimes you're still so close to it. Right. Sometimes you completely take a step outside of it, where you're in a tree stand or sitting on a beach or whatever it is for you, for a person, and then they can almost look back and look at the business and say, okay, like they're completely away from it, and they say, okay, these are what's going on. Like this is kind of like you can see it from a big overview.
Right, and that's what it takes sometimes, is just to get out of that.
Yeah.
For you to see something that you couldn't see
because it's hard, man. Like, and let's talk about this, and I feel like it would be even harder for you, is the delegation part. Right? Like I know we've talked a lot about that. Like you said, you started the business by you literally doing all of it yourself, right? You doing it, your craft, your way. When you do it, it's going to be done right? how did that? How was that? Whenever you had to give up that control and that power, and you're trusting your employees and trusting other people to do it for you.
It's challenging.
Was that hard?
It's challenging to some degree, but
Yeah.
then over time I learned that even me, I don't do things perfect either.
For
You know
sure.
what I mean? So it's like you got to let people fail.
Mm-hmm.
You got to let people do whatever it is that they're doing and kind of work with them along the way. Like if they're really coachable and they're trying to grow and develop, then you got to give them that opportunity.
Yeah.
It can't be all about you. Like you got to let somebody else have their success in their realm, whatever that looks like.
For sure. Yeah. No, and I say that because like at the office, like we all have our different niches here, in more amounts, and I feel like that's what makes you get better is kind of getting uncomfortable. Say, okay, yeah, let's give up control and let's maybe things aren't done exactly your way, right? Like that's the part of working together as a team and growing and getting uncomfortable and letting other people do things that maybe you used to be able to do or you used to do all the time. And I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like with the construction part of everything, I feel like I would have a hard time with that. I feel like that could be a difficult process.
Yeah, I think on the painting side, like let's take exteriors for example. I know how I would go and do, and then my guys will sometimes do things, and I'm like, and it's just kind of. But I know.
But you got to trust it, because they're your guys. Of course, you can say, "Hey, this is how we should do things," and help them and guide them.
Right.
But again, they're just because they don't do it exactly your way, that doesn't mean it's wrong.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Because I'm liable to go above and beyond in certain areas that most people won't.
Yep.
I may do prep work more extensive than necessary in some cases versus somebody else, but they're still doing a good job and whatnot. But it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, we all got to work together as a team to accomplish a common goal.
Yeah. So let's talk about the business a little bit more. So residential wise, right? I know that's a lot of what you're doing. So is it? And we did hit on this, but like, what about like? Is one job too big or too small for you? Are you redoing cabinets and stuff like that? I know I've asked you about that before. So, what's something, what does that look like? Like, anybody who's needing any kind of painting work done, like what's too big and too small for you? What's your complete job size there?
Yeah, I would say at this point, our capacity is, exteriors, it doesn't matter really the size, unless they're multi-million-dollar homes.
For sure.
There's a little bit outside of our realm right now. But then if you look at, full interiors, trim, doors, cabinets, ceilings, walls, anything like that. And smaller jobs, some people are like, oh, can you paint a bathroom? It's like, how about I just tell you how you can paint your bathroom? You know what I mean? Like there's certain thresholds where I'm at right now where I have a minimum job size that I try to implement because it's just it's uneconomical for me to even step foot on to even go drive to look at certain jobs. Yeah,
and that's kind of what I was asking because I feel like sometimes we get people, on the claim side, like we'll get, if someone has a, like you said, like they need a wall painted, like, hey, do you know what to paint? Like, no, yeah, we do, but I don't. That's why I was asking because I've actually not always wanted to ask you that too. Because again, I know that sometimes it just doesn't make sense and it sucks. But like you guys have you have to run a business. Like you can't just go out there and say, okay, I'll take a full day to put my guys out here to paint 2 walls or something.
Like that. Yeah. And it's like I want to help people, but at the same time, it's like I have to justify the line as far as what that looks.
Because you got a lot, man. You got insurance, you got taxes, you got all that stuff to pay for. Yeah. Trust me, I see it all, man. Literally. Okay, so. Let's go back. So, you were working, that hit you. What do you like to do, man? Outside of work. Like I know you're a big hunter, but I didn't know that you you do a lot of trout fishing.
Yeah, so I like to go trout fishing down at like Roaring River. We've been doing that since I was 15, 16.
Yeah.
There's a handful of us that go down there, like a core group of guys. We go twice a year, go trout fishing for 3 days.
Dude, that's awesome.
It is.
Have you ever been to Bennett?
I have been. We went to Bennett back in the day, and we just didn't care for Bennett too much and found Roaring River, and we've always favored Roaring River. So over time, I've evolved, and I tie my own flies. I go fly fishing and put the hat on, the waders and all that.
Dude, I used
to get out in the river and have a blast.
Bro, me and my cousin, we used to, we did some trout fishing with my grandpa. And believe it or not, we got into a point, and I was probably 13 to probably 16, we started tying our own ties. I couldn't do it now. I mean, I couldn't even tell you anything about, like, I mean, I could, but I would have to really go back and think. But we would do the fly fishing, and isn't Roaring River, you can't wade into Roaring, right?
Yeah, you can. There's a certain stretch of that water you can wade in.
Is Bennett then? Is that what's the difference? Like, I can't.
They're both about the same because they're both state parks. They have the hatcheries, they stock them and all that.
Okay.
And yeah, you can wade in certain
That's
areas.
why I couldn't remember. I thought there was one that was anyway. Anyways, me and Michaela went down there a couple years back and to Bennett Springs, and I was like, yeah, you know, that was the first time I've been in years. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go down here and catch a shit ton of fish.
Didn't
you know,
catch any?
dude, we caught like 3. And I'm like, you know, because I'm like, yeah, you'll have so much fun. You're gonna have so much because you're gonna be able to see the fish. You're gonna be able to catch them. It's all gonna be just a lot of fun. And we're down there fishing, and I'm telling you, bro, I think we did like catch 3 or 4 fish the whole weekend. And I'm like, man, this used to be way like I don't know. So, anyways,
Actually,
yeah.
No,
I was gonna say you would think it's easy, but it's not. It's definitely a little bit more difficult than it looks.
they are extremely smart fish,
Mm-hmm.
and they are very picky. What I learned is actually I catch more fish with the fly rod and those little flies on top.
Then like your
just casting it
Ah.
and just letting it hit the top and then casting it. Just doing this, and you kind of get an arm workout, but just letting it hit the water and then flicking it, and just working that fly across water.
Yeah.
I started catching the last time I went. I was doing that, and it's like, man, I was catching fish left and right. Because
Yeah.
as soon as it hits the water at certain times of the day and whatnot, they're just after it.
Yeah. No, I mean, you see it too. Like
Yeah.
whenever you're out there fishing, just throwing whatever you're throwing, I mean, you'll see them just come up there and it's like, gosh dang. Like,
Yeah, they're
why-
hitting
why-
on the top. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll just keep flicking.
Just
that
keep
thing.
flicking that and
Yeah,
just keep
start
that little
catching.
fly or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a blast.
What else? So you I know you like to fish. I know you're a big bow hunter. What about the family? What you got kids? What's that look like?
Yeah, 3 kids, 16-year-old boy,
Okay.
11-year-old girl, and a 6-year-old girl.
Okay.
And that they have an interesting dynamic in the house
It's good.
and all that. So outside of spending time with them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and dealing with all that and working and balancing everything else, you know. it's
That's
not-
probably hard, man. I mean, running a business and spending, you know, being a dad and all that stuff. That's a lot of time, man. So, and I feel like you've been doing it for a while. So, has it gotten easier for you?
To some degree, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's always challenges. I mean, every season that goes by, there's another new set of challenges, you know.
Yeah.
I think, like, you know, just trying to manage everything
Yeah.
and
Yeah. So where are you from? I know you're not from Pleasant Hill. Where are you?
no. So I was actually born in Germany, and my dad was in the army,
Okay.
and my mom's full-blooded Turkish. And
Okay.
so my grandparents on her side had migrated from Turkey to Germany back then for better jobs and whatnot. And my dad was stationed over there in the army. He was, you know, part of the 56 artillery in Pershing or whatever.
Okay.
But anyways, he worked on like the missiles and stuff like that
Wow.
back then during the Cold War and whatnot. And so I was born over there, and then we bounced from Germany to the U.S., back to Germany, back to the U.S., and then we lived in a few different states and the military bases and whatnot, and then at some point ended up at Fort Riley for a little while that I
Okay.
can remember anyways, and lived out there in the Junction City area. And then I ended up, when he got out of the army in like the mid-90s or something like that, I ended up going and living with him down in Texas for a while,
Okay.
down in Austin, Texas. And then, you know, spent a few years down there, and then ended up moving back up here to live with my mom, and I've been here for 23 years now in this
Okay.
area.
That's awesome.
You know, and ran wild, got into a bunch of trouble, and got all that out of my system, and then finally figured out what I wanted to do with myself in life. And then just, you know, got into the trade side of the industry, and
Yeah.
then just everything's fell into place ever since. You know?
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I mean, all we actually talked about that this morning. It's like, you know, I mean, everybody has their struggles and everybody has their stuff that's happened to them, but it's like, you know, you acknowledge it, it's there, and then we say, okay, like, how can that help us moving forward? You know, how can that prepare you for the next situation that comes up? You know, so, no, that's awesome, man. Well, what else, dude? What else you want to talk about? Let's talk about real estate, right?
Yeah, real estate is a new adventure. Yeah, so with that, I started the, you know, D&B Property Group, got that
Okay.
you know, set a couple of years ago, and I didn't really do anything with it at first because it's starting a business from scratch
And that's hard.
trying to do another one at the same time. And it's
That's
like,
hard.
somebody told me, you know, like a big real estate investor, you know, I met him and I said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I gave him my idea, and he's like, yeah, that's a good idea, except for you need to get one business where it doesn't, you know, it's more manageable before you go to another one. So I put it to the side.
Okay.
And all that. But then it's like this year, I was like, you know what, I need to pick back up on that. So I've got some resources in my back pocket now that a lot of that stuff's already done, so I don't have to build anything from scratch. I just plug into my partner resources, and all I need to do is get the houses and work direct to seller. So if anybody has a situation going on where they're in pre-foreclosure, or they have a vacant property they want to get rid of, or they're a landlord and they're just tired of being a landlord, or if there's houses in probate, or any reason or situation that somebody is in with a property that they need to get out from under, then I'm available to work with them. You know, we can fund it and close it. If the numbers make sense and we can all come to an agreement, we can fund it and close it relatively fast. And then from that point on, I'll take it over and then handle it accordingly, however is deemed necessary. And as of right now, I have all those resources ready to go. We're streamlining a lot of the things that I initially was trying to build from scratch, which brings me back to the whole simplify DC's contracting, get that more manageable, focus on
your niche,
my niche, and then now I have the ability with the resources and time to gradually work on that. So I mean, I'm at the point now where, you know, I've going through my lists and just calling people, and then I have to bring awareness to other people in the community and say, hey, look, you know,
this is what you're doing.
If you need something and you need out from under a property, just let me know, because I've got the ability to help you out and create a win-win situation for you to move on with your life and to get that stress off your plate, and then I can also take it and run with it and do what I need to do. And then in turn, it also helps benefit the community from, you know, networking with other businesses, and then also giving somebody else an opportunity to have, you know, a home to live in.
Exactly. Yeah, nice. Because I mean, like, is it more so you're looking for, it sounds like probably everything, not necessarily even a house that needs some work, like you're looking for maybe turnkey properties as well, right?
Possibly. Well, houses that need work that we can I can leverage my network and my resources on the contracting side of the business and to get the houses renovated and back to resell. And then, or also, we may even hold it and rent it out.
That's kind of what I was asking. Like, are you looking to, sounds like a little bit of a mixture of both, where you're, where you're getting a property, rehabbing it, getting it back on the market to sell, and then also rehabbing it, I'm sure, and pulling out the equity and then putting a tenant in there.
Exactly. Right. So either one of those two strategies, but we're also looking at if there's any multifamily, nothing major right now, you know, but if there's like a
duplex, triplex, or something like that,
fourplex or something like that, to start off with and get, you know, one or two of those under my belt before I move into something a larger scale, but anything like that.
No, dude, that's so fun to me, and we could talk about this for days. Like, that's one thing, like, you know, because like when, I don't know, I think like when me and Michaela first bought our piece of real estate, you know, we bought a duplex.
Right.
We lived in one side, rented out the other, and you know, and that's kind of where we started with ours. And I feel like multifamily, dude, is legit. Like, I would love to get into some more multifamily apartment complexes, things like that. So on the real estate side, are you looking? Where's your kind of what's your market on that? Like, where are you looking at for those type of properties? Is it anywhere and everywhere?
Kind of in the same areas. In Kansas City, but there's.
Would that be a little bit more broad, I'm assuming?
It is a little bit more broad. Yeah. It's similar to what I have targeted for DC's contracting, but outside of that, there's other pockets too that I'm aware of that would be ideal for those kinds of opportunities.
What's your favorite market then? Like in the Kansas City area? Because like I have a couple, I've always, like, I'm not familiar, even though, which is crazy, it's terrible. I'm not super familiar with like the inside the Kansas City area, like the different zip codes and stuff like that, with what's a good market to be in from a housing standpoint, and maybe what's not the best area. Right. Are you more familiar with that? Like, I'm familiar with, like, of course, Cass County, Lee Summit, like all these little areas around us. Like, I know certain zip codes to be in, and that's all great, but Kansas City, man, like, that seems like that's a lot of, you know, you can go one street and it's a great spot, and then 2 streets down, it's like, this is not the best spot.
Closer to downtown, there's good areas.
Like the Power and Light District, Waldo.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. But then, like Ward Parkway.
Ward Parkway.
Yeah, Ward Parkway. And then there's some other neighborhoods around in there. But then if you go into other areas of town that we all know of, or you're just walking into, you know, a nightmare zone.
Yep.
And it's good for some investors.
For sure.
They figured out a way to work that.
I know, that's kind of intimidating.
It is intimidating because there's a lot of variables that are kind of working against you to some degree, but there's ones that they're in there and they're making things happen.
Yep.
Because they figured out how to do that, you know.
No, we've talked to a couple guys, and that's all they do is buy in the spots, and I'm like, gosh, that, you know, and I'm just, and they love it, you know. I mean, but like you said, they figured it out on kind of how to get through those variables and kind of make it more consistent. But then that's a little intimidating for me.
Right,
I like
because
sticking.
you never know when you're going to go in and everything new you just put in is gone. And then,
I
then
know,
you got to
man.
file insurance.
I know. Then you got to call me.
Right.
Well, that's good. So, anything in the works, like any properties that you got your eye on, or anything that you have coming up, you know, that you're thinking of from a purchasing standpoint, resale standpoint? What's that look like?
As of right now, everything is just pretty much.
Good.
You know, I'm digging.
You're just
around.
ready to go.
I'm just digging around and I'm ready to go because at the beginning of the year is whenever I was like, okay, I got some things in line and I'm ready to roll.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm just making a bunch of calls and talking to people and things like that. Just the initial things that need to take place in order to get geared into the opportunity.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Airbnb? Have you ever done any research on that?
Not enough to really understand the mechanics behind it.
Yeah. I didn't know, like, you know, some of these real estate guys, like, they're doing some Airbnbs in the Kansas City area, and we have a couple, or we have the one. So I just always like to ask that question. Like, I've always think like the Kansas City area is kind of it just doesn't seem that attractive to me. But I always, of course, I know there's a lot of them out there, so I know they do well. So I just didn't know if that's something you've ever looked into.
No, I think close to I-70 by the stadium, probably.
Yeah,
or somewhere where you can access
entertainment.
downtown. Yeah, somewhere in those little areas would be ideal for those.
Yeah.
That way people can come from all over, stay for however long, and go downtown or go to a game or something like that.
I think you might be one of the only. The video shut off here, but one of the only people that stayed in our Airbnb.
Yeah.
So that was awesome.
That was a fun time.
I know. I'm happy you guys did that. When was that? Was that last year?
May have been last year, I think, or the year before. I don't remember.
I think so. Okay. Let's wrap this up. So, anything else? Any other advice? I guess DC Contracting, anybody who's listening to this, you know, if you got any painting jobs, painting needs, nothing's too big or small realistically, as long as it makes sense, reach out. Anybody who is wanting to get off a house or getting off their property or thinking about selling, whatever that might look like, if they've already maybe in the process of remodeling something, got over their head and need to get out of it, whatever that looks like, right? That's something that you can kind of help them out with all those scenarios.
Any of those kind of opportunities. And then the one thing we didn't mention is that I actually am the only painting contractor in Kansas City who has access to a thermal paint and cork coating, which is Enviro Thermal Coatings is.
Yeah, let's explain that.
Yeah, so that Enviro Thermal Coatings has a product that there's a cork coating, and then there's a nano coating, and then there's also a cork, like a mortar, which is a stucco alternative. But it's a thermal paint and cork coating that can reduce your energy losses up to 35% on a building. We can apply it to the exterior, the interior. We can apply it to floors. We can apply it to roofs as well, whether it's flat or sloped. And it comes in a variety of colors, but it will not let hot or cold pass through it at all.
Okay.
And you can put flame to it. It won't affect it. It won't let bacteria or mold grow on it because it's breathable. It's actually made from cork trees, so it reduces CO2 in the air, whether you put it on the inside or outside of the building. And then it also has a high level of elasticity, so it flexes really well. And it's kind of
different temperatures and stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
It can withstand against extreme temperatures, and like the Nano, for example, that coating is the same technology that's built into what they applied on the space shuttles.
Okay.
So
gosh,
there's a lot of benefits from that product, and it's newer to the U.S. It's been installed in some places, but I'm the only one in Kansas City who has exclusive contract rights to that product. So I have all of Western Missouri, and then I have all of Kansas as my territory to distribute that product. You know, not only for installs on my own projects for my clients for residential or commercial, but I also have the ability to partner with other contractors, whether it's painters,
and then they can use
roofers. So yeah, I would supply them with the product, and we can ship it in from Spain. It comes in from Spain, and we can get it by the pallet load for certain job sizes, or if we buy it by the container and have large amounts come in, then
Get
we
it
get
at
a
a
better
lower
buy.
quality, yeah.
So I have the ability to partner with other trade professionals or property managers, anybody that we can get that product onto their buildings, whether it's residential or commercial, and if they find the value in that, because it's such a high quality product that provides a lot of benefits and it's eco-friendly and things like that. They can reach out to me. We can talk about numbers. It takes a month to get in. I got my samples in, and it was a legitimate month because it's a special order product, and they make it fresh to order, and it does have a shelf life. So your jobs have to be ready to go, paid for, and all that. We ship it in. It needs to get installed, but I would certify other contractors basically, make sure they're doing it right, and then create that ecosystem.
Interesting.
Work together, yeah. And then there's more. Envirothermal.com to learn about that, but also on my website, and then on my Facebook page, I've got a couple videos that shows demonstration of the product and a little infomercial and whatnot. And then, like I said, on my website, there's a page that there's more information.
Talk some more about it. Okay, we'll drop that then. Like we'll drop all the links on the podcast here, and that way everybody can click on that, and that'll be good. I had no idea. When did you start doing that?
So towards the end of last year, I got the guy found me on LinkedIn, and he's out of Canada, and he's like, "Hey, I need guys in the U.S. I need dealers in the U.S. so we can get this product in." And they've tried and tested it for like 16 years now. All the data sheets, I have all that stuff. So it's been proven and tested.
Cool. Okay.
But he found me on LinkedIn, and then we talked for like 2 or 3 hours via Zoom, and I was like, "Hey, I'm in. Let's do it." So it takes time. Like I've done a couple trade shows, just last weekend, and then in October to get some, introduce it to the market, and people don't really know about it.
No, I've never heard of that at all.
Exactly. So my whole thing is to get awareness into the market and then get some traction, because it's highly beneficial to the end user and anybody in between.
Well, even you could almost, how there's different types of roofing, materials and stuff that on the insurance side helps with certain discounts and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I don't know if that's something that, that's probably too early to know, but I know, like if it's fire resistant and all that, like that could help with insurance and everything else. Exactly. Now I know it's down the road, but
for property preservation, maintenance, you coat it, and
but even for a landlord, like that would be a.
Well, if you think about a multi-family, for example, if you coat that building, you're reducing your energy losses.
Correct.
Up to 35%.
Yeah.
It's what it's been tested at. So, and same with the roof too. You can put, the demonstration video is online, but you can put on a sheet of metal the coating on one side and no coating on the other, and stick ice cubes on each side, and underneath it put a Bunsen burner. And you can watch the ice cube melt on one side and not melt on the other. And you're looking at,
wow,
the millimeter thickness like this, basically, of the coating, and it will not let hot or cold pass through it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's legit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay. Well, let's drop that. No, dude, appreciate you being on.
Thanks for having me.
Always appreciate the friendship, and had a lot of fun with it. So.
Likewise, man.
All right, episode 27, over and out. Cut.